G'day everybody, Spud here from Spud's Games. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today's video, I'm going to run you through my entire PS2 collection. Stay tuned. So first of all, before we kick off on the video, I'd like to say thank you to everyone who has subscribed to my channel in the last week or so. I think I've had something like 20 new subscribers, which is great. It just tells me that you guys want to see more videos. So that's great that you subscribe. You'll now get a notification when I put up a new video such as this one. Big thank you, and hopefully there's more to come. So before I get right into the video, there's a couple of things I wanted to kick off by saying that there's going to be some games in here that you don't see. And you're going to be wondering why you don't see them, because they should be part of the greatest PS2 collection if anyone's collecting for PS2. But there's a couple of reasons why you might not see them in this particular video. One is I simply don't have them. If I don't have them, I'm not going to talk about them, because this video is about my PlayStation 2 collection, not about the PlayStation 2 collection in general. So if I don't have it, I'm not going to talk about it. The second reason you might not see them is I have the game, it's just on a different console. If I take the example of Project 01 or Marvel vs. Capcom, Marvel vs. Capcom 2 that is, sorry, I actually have those games, but they're just on different consoles. Project 0, the first one, I've got on Xbox, and Marvel vs. Capcom 2, I've actually got on Dreamcast, because I just find that the superior port. The other reason you might not see them is because a lot of them were transitioned over to PS3 on the HD collections. So if I've got it as part of that collection, then I don't have it in my PlayStation 2 collection as well. So it may not be a case that I don't have the game, it's just I don't have it in my PlayStation 2 collection. So I hope that clarifies straight up why you might not see some video games that you would expect to see in a PlayStation 2 video. By all means, it might not mean that I don't have them, it's just they're in another part of my video game collection. So just on the collection itself, we'll start off talking about the consoles that I have and I use. The two end ones here are for display purposes. They do work, but I don't actually use them for anything else other than showing off. This one has the Joytech screen. It comes with a car adapter, remote control. It is fully boxed, just the box is in storage. This screen will only fit onto the PlayStation 2s that have the 8.5 volt power brick at the back. They're just not designed for the 240 volts straight in. This one is part of the Auto Modellista range. I think there was about 7 or 8 different colours released. Common belief is that it was a Japanese console only, or the range was Japanese only, but it's not true. It was released in all regions. This one is a PAL console, so you don't think that they were actually released in PAL regions. They were. This is an Australian console as well. So the gentleman I bought this off actually worked for Sony, and his 10-year anniversary come up, and they gave this to him as a gift for his 10 years worth of service. So that was nice of them. He had it sitting in his house for many years without being used. Unfortunately, he couldn't remember what he did with the box, but it did have the matching controller, and it also had the matching stand as well, which is nice. This black fat PS2 is the PS2 that I use to play all my games on. It has the Brooks wireless adapter on the front there. It also has a hard drive on the back. The hard drive has HDBoot installed onto it. It also has a Modbo chip installed. I think it's a Modbo4.0 chip installed. So between those two, it allows me to play all my backup games, as well as any games that I have stored on the hard drive. I think there's a 250 gig hard drive in there at the moment. It only has about half a dozen games on it or so. But that's essentially what I use. For the Brooks controller, I just pair it with a standard PS3 controller. It's really nice, works together really well. And yeah, it plays fine for me. Just one thing to note, all the video you see and all the photos you see, they aren't stock images, they're actually photos and videos of my video game collection. And I'm hoping that just gives you a feel for the collection itself. I think if I use stock images and stock videos, it just wouldn't give the same feeling. So rest assured, all this stuff is mine, and it's all been shot by me, and there's no stock images or no stock video being used. Throughout the making of this video, there was something that was really highlighted to me when I was going through all the PlayStation 2 games that I had. And that's just the amount of high quality series that the PlayStation 2 put out. Series such as .hack, the Kingdom Hearts series, the Shadow Hearts series, the Dark Cloud and Dark Chronicle series, the Drakengard series, Forbidden Siren, we've got Jak and Daxter, we've got Ratchet and Clank, we've got the Xeno Saga series, all 3 games. You know, God of War was another series that was released on PlayStation 2. We've also got Zone of the Enders, Time Splitters. So all these are high quality series that were all released on the PlayStation 2. But then we also have the continuation of series, such as the Metal Gear Solid series. We've got the Silent Hill series, which had another 3 or 4 games released on it. But the Mega Man series, that had a range of games released on it. The Tekken Fighting series, that had Tekken 4, Tekken 5 and Tekken Tag Tournament, all high quality fighters. You know, we've also got Star Ocean, another one. Suikoden, another one. Disgaea, another one. So this just goes to highlight, you know, PlayStation really did take on board those original games, and I think made some high quality games in the series as well. Without a doubt, the biggest genre that I have in my collection is the Japanese RPG games, and I didn't realise PlayStation 2 was so strong in this particular area. Back in the day I played a lot of sport games, I played a lot of platformers, but I didn't realise that Japanese RPGs were so extensive. You know, in my collection I've got La Pucelle Tactics, Suikoden Tactics, Disgaea series, the Dark Cloud series, the .hack series, the Shadow Hearts series, the Grim Grimoire game, the Persona series, Stellar Deuce. That's just to name a couple of the high quality Japanese RPG games. Another genre that they excelled in was the survival horror series. You know, Silent Hill, Ghost Vibrations, Forbidden Siren series, Project Zero series. We've got Echo Knight, Can't Discount Kuwon, Michigan Report from Hell, and of course the Resident Evil series. So now let's talk about values. Now, I understand there's a lot of people who are interested in values of collections, and they're also interested in dollar value of individual games and how people evaluate the dollar figure attributed to a game. Personally, for me, it's not that important. I do keep a log of my collection, but that's purely for my own reasons, so I know actually what I've got in the collection and I don't end up doubling up on games. But for those who are interested, my PS2 collection sits at about 200 games. I use pricecharting.com for my collection purposes. You use whatever you want. But price charting tells me that I have about 200 games. I think it says 189, but some of them aren't actually in pricecharting.com that I have. So best guess for me would be sitting about 200 games. And it would be, if you took into the dollar value of the consoles that I've got elsewhere, you're sitting at about $8,500 Australian. Worth of PlayStation 2 games and consoles that I have in my collection. So now let's quickly run you through the top 5 dollar value video games that I have in my collection according to pricecharting.com. So coming in at number 5 as one of the top 5 most valuable games in my collection, Silent Hill collections for PlayStation 2. Now this is actually just not one game, it's 3 games in one. And it's not all on one CD, there are in fact multiple CDs as well. So this is complete. It comes with Silent Hill 2, 3 and 4, which I think is The Room. So it is a compilation of Silent Hill games, but as an individual unit itself, it comes in at number 5 as the top 5. And it's sitting at about $180 Australian on pricecharting.com. So next up on the list at number 4 is the most valuable PlayStation 2 games I've got in my collection, and it's probably no surprise, is P3F or Persona 3 FES. I do have the original Persona 3 in my collection as well, but this is essentially the same game just with a couple of added on content, but it's sitting at price charting at about $230 odd Australian. Next we have quite a jump in dollar value, and it's an NTSC game, and there's a bit of a story behind this one. I saw the whole series on Facebook Marketplace. It was advertised for $80. And funny enough, when I spoke to the guy, he said no one was interested because it was NTSC, and this particular game is the third one in the series, which is Xeno Saga 3. The other two are over there as well, but they're just not as valuable, I suppose you would call it. This one's sitting number 3 in my collection is the most valuable, sitting at about $320 worth. So it is quite a substantial between Persona 3 and this one. But yeah, it's quite valuable and highly sought after. Coming in at number 2, which is actually a surprise because I thought this would have been number 1. I've always thought this game would reach number 1 in dollar value in time. I know the likes of Rule of Rose and whatnot are out there, and they're quite valuable as well, but I always thought this game would eventually reach number 1 because I think it's a better game than the other ones. But anyway, it's Michigan Report from Hell. Now this is the full English version of it. It's very hard to find, and this is one of the few games where I was happy to pay quite a substantial amount. Back in the, it was about 3 or 4 years ago, I actually paid $150 for this game. Thankfully it's gone up. It's now sitting at about $390 on pricecharting.com, and it sits in at number 2 as the most valuable PlayStation 2 games in my collection. And now for number 1. This is actually a shock for me because I actually forgot I had this game until I started putting all the games away and sorting them out. So it was a nice surprise when I'm doing some research and filtering through pricecharting.com that I found that Kuon is number 1. I've never actually played this game, so I'm going to have to get around to playing it. And it sits at number 1 as the most valuable PlayStation 2 game in my collection. And pricecharting.com has it at about $495. So that was quite a shock for me. So there it is, number 1 of my top 5 valuable PlayStation 2 games. So now let's get to the part of the video which everyone's been waiting for. The top 5 PlayStation 2 games that I have in my collection according to me. Now I will say that there are games that didn't make the top 5 which a lot of people are probably expected to, such as your Metal Gear Solid, your God of Wars. Yes, they're great games, but let's face it, everyone picks those in their top 5. I've gone a little bit obscure. While I do think they are great games, and they certainly would be my top 10, I've narrowed it down to 5 games which I just really enjoyed playing. So let's get stuck into it. So at number 5, we've got God Hand. Man, this is a great game. For those of you who like hack and slash games and beat 'em up games, this is a nice cross between both of them. It's fast, it's furious, it has great gameplay, it has great controls, and I just when I was going back through these games, I spent probably the most amount of time playing this one. So I couldn't fault it. The controls can be a little bit tricky to learn with the combos and whatnot, but it's just a great fun game to play, and I recommend it to have anyone who has a PlayStation 2 collection. You need to have God Hand in that collection.
You're the God Hand.
So coming in at number 4, it's probably a game that everyone expects to be in the top 5, but some people loved it, some people didn't like it. I loved it. I'm not a huge fan of RPGs. I can find them a bit tedious, but this particular one I found a nice balance between action and dungeon crawling, and the game is Dark Cloud. It was a PlayStation 2 exclusive. It did have a sequel, Dark Chronicle, in Australia. I think in the US and Japan it was called Dark Cloud 2. But I played the first one. Once again, playing back through it, I just forgot how much I enjoyed it. It does get a bit tedious, as all RPGs do. There is a big amount of dungeon crawling you need to do, and grinding and whatnot, but the storyline is great, the music is fantastic, and just the overall gameplay is good as well. You can even see elements in today's games that have used what was built into this game, such as your town building, your weapons breaking, and a couple of other things. So for me, this sits at number 4 in my collection of top 5 PlayStation games. PlayStation 2 games. So coming in at number 3 on the top 5 PlayStation 2 games that, or my top 5 PlayStation 2 games in my collection, Ratchet and Clank. Now I know this was remade for the PS4, which I thought was fantastic as well, and finished that platinum and that, but I just don't think you can beat the original on PlayStation 2. It's a super fun game to play. It's a 3D platformer. The dialogue's good, it's quite funny in some spots, the graphics are great, the controls are good, the story keeps you engaged, and it's not super difficult to do, and it's not super long either. So there was a whole series of them released. I think there was 5 all up on the PlayStation 2, but for me you just can't go past the first one. I really enjoyed Ratchet and Clank. Coming in at number 2, this was a super hard decision, this one. I've actually just changed my mind making this video because I really can't decide between number 2 and number 1. But well, let's just call it a draw, but for the sake of the video and the top 5, we'll just call this number 2. Jak and Daxter, the original, the precursor legacy. Now, I've also played this on PlayStation 3, which was good. The advantage it had on PlayStation 3 was you could invert the camera controls, which was handy. But similar to Ratchet and Clank, very sort of similar game style, but I just thought Jak and Daxter took it one step further. I thought the storyline was a little bit better than Ratchet and Clank, a little bit more engaging. I found the dialogue a little bit more funnier, and the graphics overall I thought were a little bit better than Ratchet and Clank, so that's why I picked that one out. I finished this one, as I said, I finished on PlayStation 4 as well. I recommend you have to play. If you own a PlayStation 2 and you have this in your collection, you've got to play it, as simple as that. Now for number 1. Might be a surprise to some people, but for some people it's a given that this is the number 1. No, it's not Metal Gear Solid and it's not God of War. The game I've chosen as number 1 is quirky. It's one of those Japanese quirky games which, if someone told you what it was or what the mechanics were, you would just laugh it off and go, there's no way in hell that would work. But it did. We love Katamari. I think in Japan it's called Katamari Damacy, but in Australia and most other regions it's called We Love Katamari. Now, very hard to describe this game, except it's a fantasy game, but at the end of the day you're just a little dude that pushes a ball around and you run over stuff. That stuff sticks to the ball, your goal is to make the ball bigger. Sounds pretty easy. It's not that easy, but it's super fun to play. The dialogue is probably the most quirky I've ever seen. Actually, there's probably one more quirky, which is Mr. Mosquito, but it's one of the quirkiest dialogues you'll ever catch or come across on PlayStation 2. And the music, it's really, really catchy, but it's also really, really corny, and it's just a super fun game to play, really colourful, and pretty much anyone of any age could play it. It's pretty simple mechanics. It does get difficult, but the mechanics, or the basic mechanics behind the game is just really simple. You're just pushing a ball around, collecting stuff. So, while it sounds very simple and very strange, it's too hard to describe unless you go and play it. So, if you have a copy of it, go and play it. If you don't have a copy of it, go and fork out the $50 or whatever it is on eBay. Grab a copy of it and play it. I recommend it, and this is my #1 PlayStation 2 game that I have in my collection.
Walking Mr. Sunshine. Na 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 na. Katamari on the swing.
So that's it from me, guys. Thank you very much for watching the video. As I've said previously on my other videos, I will be making more videos. The quicker I do that depends on how many subscribers I can get, because the more I get, obviously it tells me the more that you guys want me to make videos. So I've got a whole collection here I can make videos on, plus I've got stuff that's coming in as well. I just picked up the PlayStation 5 yesterday finally, so plan on making a video on that. I've got collector's editions I've picked up that I want to go through. So once again, thank you for watching the video, and stay tuned for more videos.